They told you the Black Panthers destroyed themselves, that the movement was too radical, too dangerous, too violent to survive. That is the story they put in textbooks, in news reports, and in every documentary that never quite names who was really in the room. But here is what they left out. The man who brought down the most promising black organizer of the 20th century was not a rival gang leader. He was not a political enemy. He was a 17-year-old kid from the same neighborhood, manufactured into a weapon by the United States federal government. And the people who built him? They retired with full benefits. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the machine that built William O'Neal, the strategy that killed Fred Hampton, and the reason you were never supposed to know either name. Picture 1968 Chicago. A teenager named William O'Neal gets caught driving a stolen car across state lines while pretending to be a federal officer. He is 17. He is looking at serious federal time. Then a man named Roy Mitchell walks in. Mitchell is a white FBI agent out of the Chicago field office, and he does not come with handcuffs. He comes with an offer. The charges disappear. All of them. In exchange, O'Neal goes inside the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party and reports everything back. O'Neal takes the deal. He does not know yet that he is about to become the most consequential informant in American political history. But Mitchell knows, because Mitchell has a target already picked out. His name is Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton was 19 years old in 1968. He was born in 1948 and raised in Maywood, Illinois, the same suburb as O'Neal. He was already chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, and he was doing something that terrified the people in power far more than any weapon ever could. He was building bridges. Hampton had pulled together the Black Panthers, the Young Patriots. That was a group of poor white Appalachian migrants on Chicago's North Side. The Young Lords, who were Puerto Rican organizers, and the Blackstone Rangers street gang. He called it the Rainbow Coalition, not a slogan, an actual functioning alliance of people who had been told their whole lives that they had nothing in common. Working-class black people, working-class white people, working-class Latino people, all organized together under the same demand: feed the people, house the people, free the people. That was the most dangerous thing J. Edgar Hoover had ever seen. In March 1968, Hoover issued a classified internal memo directing COINTELPRO, the FBI's covert domestic disruption program, to prevent the rise of what he called a Black Messiah, someone who could unify and electrify the Black nationalist movement. The memo specifically named Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Elijah Muhammad, and Stokely Carmichael as targets. Fred Hampton, still a teenager, was rapidly becoming the next candidate on that list. And now the FBI had a 17-year-old from Hampton's own neighborhood, desperate to stay out of prison, already walking through the front door. O'Neal moved fast. Within a year, he was not just a member. He was the chief of security for the Illinois chapter, Hampton's personal bodyguard. He had keys to the office. He knew the schedule. He knew who came and went. And he knew where Hampton slept. Hold that thought for a second. Because what the FBI built inside the Panthers was not just a snitch. It was an architecture of destruction. And that full architecture is bigger than anything we have told you yet. Hey family, real talk. YouTube has shut down channels for telling exactly these kinds of stories. So I need you to find us off this platform. Go to blackstories-untold.com, join our mailing list, and make sure we stay connected no matter what they do. Now, back to what happened. Let's talk about what the Panthers were actually doing, because the FBI worked overtime to make you forget. By 1969, the Free Breakfast for Children program was feeding more than 20,000 children every week across the country. 20,000 kids who went to school with full stomachs because the Panthers woke up before sunrise to cook for them. The Panthers also ran free medical clinics, free ambulance services, sickle cell anemia testing at a time when the medical establishment was not checking for it in black communities, free clothing drives, political education classes. Hoover looked at all of that and said the breakfast program alone was, and this is a direct quote from his internal memos, the greatest threat to internal security in the country. Not the guns, not the protests, the breakfast. When you understand that, you begin to understand what they were really afraid of. They were afraid of a black organization that was solving problems the government refused to solve. Because if the people do not need the government cannot control the people. This is the thread that connects everything. And this is where the story gets darker. By the fall of 1969, O'Neal had been inside for over a year. The FBI was paying him an estimated $30,000 or more across his time as an informant. They gave him cars. They set up a gas station business as cover. Roy Mitchell later called him the best informant the Chicago field office ever had. And in November 1969, O'Neal did the single most devastating thing he would ever do. He drew a detailed floor plan of Hampton's apartment at 2337 West Monroe Street on the west side of Chicago. He handed it to Mitchell. The floor plan marked exactly where Fred Hampton slept. Think about what it means to hand someone a map to your brother's bedroom, because that is what this was. Hampton trusted O'Neal with his life, literally. He was his bodyguard, and O'Neal drew the map. On the night of December 3rd, 1969, O'Neal was at the apartment. He had dinner with Hampton and the other Panthers who lived there. Before he left, he slipped secobarbital, a powerful sedative, into Hampton's drink. Hampton fell asleep in the middle of a phone call with his mother. He never woke up the same man again. At 4:45 in the morning on December 4th, 1969, 14 Chicago police officers raided that apartment. They came with a floor plan already in hand. They fired between 90 and 99 shots into that apartment. The Panthers fired one shot, possibly zero. The one shot attributed to the Panthers may have come from Mark Clark, 22 years old, who was killed instantly in the front room. His weapon discharged as he fell, a reflexive reaction to being shot. Hampton was found unconscious in his bed. Next to him was his fiancée, Akua Njeri, at the time known as Deborah Johnson, who was 8.5 months pregnant with their child. Two officers entered the bedroom. One pulled Akua off the bed. The other shot Fred Hampton twice in the head at point-blank range. One of them was reportedly heard saying, "He is good and dead now." Fred Hampton was 21 years old. His son, Fred Hampton Jr., was born 25 days later. His father never held him. The Chicago police told the press it was a shootout. They said the Panthers had fired first and fired repeatedly. That story held in the mainstream press for years. The FBI's role was buried, and O'Neal walked free, still on the government's payroll, still reporting, until 1972. The people who built the weapons suffered nothing. This is exactly how they get away with it. And what came next proves this was never about one man. The truth about COINTELPRO did not come out until the Church Committee hearings in 1975 and 1976. That was a series of Senate investigations that exposed the FBI's covert war against black organizations for the first time. The public learned about the memos, the floor plan, the sedative, the coordinated raid. The Hampton family and the Clark family filed a civil lawsuit that dragged on for 13 years. In 1982, the federal government, Cook County, and the city of Chicago paid out a combined $1.85 million to settle the case. They paid it, and they never admitted wrongdoing. Not one word of accountability. Roy Mitchell, the man who recruited a 17-year-old and pointed him at a 21-year-old, retired from the FBI with full benefits. He died in 2013. He never expressed regret, not once, not on record. Now let us talk about William O'Neal, because his story does not end in 1969. He stayed an informant until 1972. His name surfaced publicly later in the 1970s, and he entered witness protection. He spent years in California under an assumed name. Then he came back to Chicago. In 1989, he sat for one single on-camera interview for the PBS documentary Eyes on the Prize 2. He looked into that camera and he said, "I think I will let history speak for me." His daughter has spoken about what his life looked like after the fact. She says he was haunted, that he drank heavily, that he could not look at photographs of Fred Hampton without breaking down. She also says the FBI never truly let him go, that Roy Mitchell stayed in contact with O'Neal for the rest of his life, long after the informing officially ended. The system did not free him. It just stopped paying him. On January 15, 1990, O'Neill walked onto the Eisenhower Expressway in Chicago and was struck by oncoming traffic. He was 40 years old. His family called it a suicide. That date was not random. January 15th is Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And that night was the night the Eyes on the Prize episode featuring his interview aired on national television. Before he died, he told his nephew, "I did not want to be remembered as a snitch." He was remembered as one anyway. But here is what I want you to hold on to. William O'Neill was not born a weapon. He was built into one. The FBI looked at a 17-year-old black kid from Maywood, scared and facing federal charges, and they saw a tool. They used his fear, his youth, and his survival instinct to destroy the community he came from. They gave him money and cars and called him their best asset. Then they left him to carry the weight of Fred Hampton's blood for the rest of his life. That is not coincidence. That is design. And here is where everything connects. After the Panthers were destroyed, after COINTELPRO had torn through the movement, after Fred Hampton was killed and the Rainbow Coalition was dismantled, the federal government expanded the National School Lunch Program in 1975 to include a National School Breakfast Program. They took the exact program that J. Edgar Hoover had labeled the greatest internal threat to this country. The program he had ordered his agents to neutralize. The program Fred Hampton had died building, and they made it federal policy. They institutionalized it under their name after killing the people who built it. Let that sit with you. They killed the chef. Then they stole the recipe. The Rainbow Coalition model Hampton built, cross-racial, working class, community-rooted, never recovered at the national level. Black political leadership after 1970 largely moved toward electoral politics. The revolutionary tradition of community organizing Hampton represented was buried with him in a coffin he was placed in at 21. And the FBI's playbook did not retire with COINTELPRO. The same strategy. Find a young black person with leverage, embed them in the movement, use them to destroy from within, was applied to the Nation of Islam, to the MOVE organization in Philadelphia, to the American Indian movement, and to later generations of black organizing. The template O'Neill's case perfected is still in use. That is the story they do not want you to understand. Not just that Fred Hampton was killed, not just that William O'Neill was an informant. The deeper truth is that the United States government looked at black people feeding their children, healing their sick, and organizing across race lines, and called it the greatest threat to national security. They built a machine to destroy it. They destroyed a 21-year-old man in his bed. They adopted his work after burying him, and they walked away clean. Fred Hampton used to say, "You can kill a revolutionary, but you cannot kill the revolution." They tried their hardest to prove him wrong. But his son is still out here. The breakfast program is still running. And now you know the story they spent 50 years trying to bury. This was Black Stories Untold. And as always, thanks for watching. If you want more stories like this, click the video on your screen now